All right, y'all. I saw this thing online that said if Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Jeremiah Robinson-Earl, hit it off once, Robinson-Earl gets acquainted with the Thunder and everything, and say they get married and they take each other's names, we're looking at Gilgeous-Alexander, Robinson-Earl on the back of both of their jerseys. Not sure if it's going to fit, but I got to say I'm kind of hoping that's going to happen. And got me thinking a lot about the Thunder roster, their outlook, their future, something GM Sam Presti's obviously put a lot of time into. But something I have a lot of questions about. And I know, we all kind of marvel at like, oh my God, they have freaking 40 first-round picks in the next 10 years. They're going to be like, it's like in 2K when you have download a draft and then you try and trade for like the first 5 picks in the draft and you end up with your team's like Zion, Ja, and RJ Barrett. That's essentially what they're doing for like 2025 or whatever it is, where it's like, yeah, we're going to have half of the first round basically, and we're just going to take as many stabs at as possible, and hopefully one of these guys, pans out. And I got to say, I don't see, and listen, I admire the experiment of it, and we've seen them, flip guys like Horford and, Paul George to get a ton of picks, Chris Paul, and it's kind of amazing. It's a fascinating experiment. But I think you leave a lot to just the unknown with these first-round picks, as opposed to, guys that can play basketball at a high level, which is SJ is an example of that, and someone they got in the Paul George trade. But now there's rumors that he's not necessarily, going to be there for a long term. They're potentially shopping him. And I think it was at that moment I really started to question, like, all right, what is our timeline here in OKC? Are we planning to be good? And we can't even say great. I mean, we don't know with these first-round picks. Obviously, you could do a big dump for a star or two. You could probably get a big 3 like that if they all became available. But if they don't, then we're looking at, 5 to 10 years down the line, the Thunder are going to be competitive. And I think, it's not, that in itself isn't necessarily bad. But I think when you look at the Pistons and the Rockets are 2 teams that come to mind immediately as teams that have I would be more excited at this point, because as a Rockets fan or a Pistons fan than I am a Thunder fan, because they have assets right now that I would be excited about. I'm excited about Jalen Green, Christian Wood, John Wall, all those guys, Kevin Porter, all. So this was the same light as yesterday. And Kevin Porter Jr. all playing on the same team together, right? Like, that's exciting. I'm excited to see that. You have Jayshawn Tate, big hustle guy, kind of can do a little bit of everything. In Detroit, you have obviously Cade Cunningham now coming in, but he's joining Sadiq Bey, Isaiah Stewart, Killian Hayes, Jeremy Grant. And it's like they turned it around, and I mean, obviously, like, the Rockets were, made it to the Western Conference Finals, and the Pistons, they had Blake Griffin for a little bit. But they went from, like, last offseason, we were looking at the Pistons roster being like, what the hell are they doing in here? Like, it makes no sense. They're signing Mason Plumlee for, $16 million a year for 4 years. Jeremy Grant, overpaid. Like, what is he going to do? And now we're kind of eating our words a little bit. I mean, they just basically gave away Plumlee for free and actually went back in the second round just to get rid of that contract. So, I mean, he showed that he was a valuable player, and obviously, Charlotte proved that he was worth trading for. But, I mean, Jeremy Grant, had a great draft, and so now you look at, like, the Pistons kind of at least are more exciting than they were 2-3 years ago. Even probably, this might be the most exciting the Pistons have been since, like, Ben Wallace and Billups and Rip Hamilton. And they did it in a matter of a couple years, and now we have OKC, who moved on. Well, KD moved on from them. They traded Harden, moved on from Westbrook. And that seems like an eternity ago. I mean, Westbrook's now playing for like his 3rd or 4th team since the Thunder. And they're still kind of like figuring it out, flipping these like expiring contracts, these like awful contracts for first-round picks. They've taken on all these like kind of raw guys, like Pokusevski is, who knows what he can be. This Josh Giddey guy they just got. I mean, it doesn't seem like anyone's really sure what he's going to turn out to be. And, the guys they got now, I mean, Lou Dort is a really interesting asset. Great defender, someone that, you could really use on a playoff team, especially when you're talking matchups. You need to shut down a guy for an entire series. I think, he has huge value in that regard. But outside of him, like Isaiah Roby, Baisley, Moses Brown, I thought was interesting. And as someone who knows a lot of Celtics fans, I feel like they're pretty bummed that they flipped him. But outside of that, and if, SGA is not a part of their long-term plan, then, if I'm an OKC fan, I'm saying, yeah, but we have the picks, like, trust in Presti, like, he'll figure it out. Or, we could land freaking Giannis if we wanted to, because we have, like, 8 first-round picks, we could get him. And we have all these pick swaps, and, like, we're going to have all of this draft capital and whatnot. And I'm like, yeah, it's true, but it's going to be a matter of what you do with it and how things line up. Like, maybe a lot of the guys you go after are, would get extensions and are not going to be trade assets, because you're not. The thing about OKC, and this is probably going to be true forever unless they start moving OKC, like global warming happens and OKC suddenly becomes on the water and there's like beaches and like celebrities start moving there, it's not a free agent destination. I don't know the last big name free agent that decided to sign with OKC. I mean, they traded for Paul George, they drafted KD, drafted Harden, drafted Westbrook, and so that's how you're going to acquire the big stars. It's going to be through the draft, it's going to be through trades. And I admire Sam Presti for realizing that, because he's getting the draft picks. But, I mean, all those guys were kind of like top 10. And, once you get outside even the top 3, I mean, like, the talent level, it becomes a crapshoot. Especially, they have, like, some Houston picks. Who knows where those will end up. They have the Clippers. I mean, the Clippers, especially if Kawhi resigns, I mean, congrats. You got, the 26th pick in the draft. And if you look at it, there's very little, like, all-star caliber players coming out late. I know, like, there's Jimmy Butler and Rudy Gobert was in that kind of range. But, you're hoping for, like, a role player at that spot. And if you're a rebuilding team like OKC, like, you can't build your franchise on role players. Like, at some point, you need either a top 3 pick or you need to trade for a star. And I guess maybe Sam Presti, he's just waiting for the right moment. But, like, at what point do you say we want to win? Because with Chris Paul, it was like, we're winning even though we don't want to win, which was cool. And they got first for him. But again, like, to Phoenix, who just went to the, finals. So that's not also looking like great. So then you have their own picks. So now they're just going to have to lose a lot at some point, probably this season. And then, I don't know, overpay for some free agents, hope that, I mean, if you're the Thunder right now, who are you even targeting as, like, someone you can trade for? Like, what direction? Do you try and get, like, Cat? Or, like, De'Aaron Fox? Are you looking at, because say, all right, like, we know we have the precedent with James Harden. 4 first-round picks, and, like, Victor Oladipo, which, like, whatever, throw that out, because the Rockets should have been probably a Ben Simmons type, even though, Ben Simmons is not. But, all right, 4 first-round picks is kind of the thing. Now, we know OKC definitely has 4 first-round picks, but who do you go after in terms of, like, it has to be a star that's on, like, a bad team or an unhappy star, but, like, is any star going to be happy in OKC? Like, are you going to be, like, you're going to trade for them, and then they're going to get there and be like, why the hell did I ask for a trade? I'm now in Oklahoma City. I have this, like, random coach, Mark Daigneault. Maybe he's, like, a sick coach. I have no idea. It's kind of hard to tell when you have, like, 73 overall 2K players making up your entire roster except for a couple, and you sat Al Horford the whole time. So we don't have a great evaluation of how good this coach is. And, like, Sam Presti, it's kind of tough to be like, yeah, fire Sam Presti, because he can just point and be like, dude, look at all these picks I got you. Like, we're gonna be really good. And at some point, like, I would get tired of that. Like, if I'm Oklahoma City, I'm getting it's gonna be kind of grating to be like, all right, here we go, another losing season on purpose to get these picks. And like, I guess it's exciting. We get to see this Pokuševski guy who's like 6'11", 120, that can like shoot and pass the ball, and it's like gonna be the next fucking Giannis, but like pale. And we got Shai, the guy who is really good, but could also get traded for probably 3 more first round picks. And I don't see the like vision as much as just like, they could do this forever with the whole like, oh yeah, we'll take Al Horford for a first, we'll take Kemba Walker for a first, we'll take Chris Paul for 2 firsts. Like, you could do that forever. Like, Kemba's gonna average 25 in the first half of next season. They'll probably flip him for a first to some like, contender that needs it, and that's fine, because those contenders are like, well, what do I need my first round pick for? I'm a contender. And OKC, I guess, is like, well, we'll get them off the books. We'll take some more of your fucking expiring contracts. Bring them on down. They can wear the old turquoise, blue, and orange for a little bit until we flip them, or we'll just sit them out, make up some injury that they got. I'll say tore his ACL in practice behind closed doors, and that'll be that. And then look at us. We got a top 5 pick, maybe. I don't know. And I can't even tell you, like, who did they draft, like, in the past couple years that's even relevant. They've had to have a top pick at some point. Like Moses Brown, was he I don't even think Moses Brown, he was undrafted. I have no idea, and I feel like that's a problem, because they hit on Durant, Harden, Westbrook, which is kind of crazy. You have 3 MVPs all drafted by the same team, on the same team, and that's my mom right there. She's not gonna recognize me. Oh, there she is. Look at that. Community. I'm trying to talk ball. Yeah, so the Thunder are frustrating is basically what I'm trying to get at. And I don't know if anyone... it's like a fucking... just go back to Seattle. I don't know, that would be exciting. See, if you move cities and like, man, look at all the chances we're gonna have at a fucking guy. I mean, imagine they don't trade some of these picks and they just take all of them. First of all, you're gonna have way too many players on one team, because you have like, it's gonna be like 30 guys. So you're gonna trade probably a lot of just the players or the picks. And imagine if they don't hit on any of them. Like, I think we kind of, underestimate how difficult it is to draft these guys. Like, no one really knows. Like, there are a lot of sure things out there, and I think the surest thing, talk about like LeBron coming out of high school and everyone was like, this guy's like the best ever or whatever, and he's lived up to it. But I think it says a lot that that's probably the go-to example. And on the other side, you have an Anthony Bennett. You have, Cade Cunningham is like crash. Last words are going to be Cade Cunningham. Cade Cunningham is apparently a sure thing. Do we know? Like, he played for Oklahoma State. It doesn't seem like a lot of people are bringing a lot of questions about the guy, but I'd say, he played for Oklahoma State. He was kind of the only good guy. That gives me a little pause as to, like, you're not going to be necessarily that same type of role. I mean, we see the skills. Do they translate? I'm not saying that Cade Cunningham can't be an all-star. I'm just saying I have some questions. And I think everyone should have some questions about every pick, because there's no way to know. And there's always the element of serendipity. Cade Cunningham plays practice, snaps his leg, and then it's like, well, he could have been the next fucking Michael Jordan. But Isaiah Stewart contested a shot. He came down on his ankle. Fucking bone went through the skin, and Cade Cunningham is out for season. And then he's probably trying to get Rookie of the Year and do the whole Ben Simmons thing again. There's 2 Ben Simmons references in one video. Maybe talk about him later. That's going to be a whole other drive home from work. But really, as I pull into my driveway, the point I want to get across is with these Oklahoma City Thunder, I'm just not that excited about what they have. And I know that the uncertainty would kill me as a Thunder fan. And I was a Thunder fan. I like Russell Westbrook a lot, which is unpopular opinion. Jeez, that scared me. And I think Sam Presti has to do something in this season that would make me get excited and not just more picks. Because picks are great to a certain extent, especially if it's a top 5. Outside of that, it's pretty much a crapshoot. So you might as well get someone you know can actually play the sport of basketball instead of some guy that played in college. And now, like, guys get taller, more athletic, the game's faster. And you don't know how they're going to react. And I feel like that's a big gamble, especially when you're doing it. You might help your chances if you're doing it 30 times in the next 7 years. But at the end of the day, maybe let someone else pick the right guy and then trade him for 4 picks. How about that? Love to see it. Sam Presti, if you're ever going to watch this. Emerson alum, actually, just like myself. So we kind of have a connection there. East Coast guy. But we'll see what goes on with OKC. They have some excitement brewing, but we'll see about Josh Giddey. We'll see about SGA if he, falls in love with Robinson-Earl. And that's about it, man. It's going to be... Don't like their chances, but the Thunder tend to win more than you ever think. So I'm excited to see that again. And I hope you are too. And I hope you take care of yourselves, take it easy, and I'll see you next time.